like to call to order the January 25th, 2022 regular school board meeting of the Columbia Heights Public School Board. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you're watching at home, thanks to the board for being here on this cold night. In Mary's absence, Don, would you mind doing the roll?
Sure. Okay, that's not going on. I'll use my loud voice.
All right, thank you.
Member Palmer,
Here.
Member Lewis,
Here.
Member Mueller,
Here.
Member Zena,
Here.
sorry, Member Granlund, Member Severson,
Here.
Superintendent Stenbeck.
Here. All right, thank you so much, Don. We will move on to our mission statement as soon as I get this note in my computer. Our mission statement, creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner, all belong, all succeed. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. We'll move on to the agenda approval, adjustments, announcements, and correspondence, and we'll begin with an approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Lorian, second.
Second.
Molly, any discussion on the agenda? All right, we'll do a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, agenda's approved. We'll move on to the announcements. January 27th and 28th, Thursday and Friday this week, there's no school. On February 1st, which is a Tuesday, are the precinct caucus day, singular. February 18th, Tuesday at 5:30 is the joint meeting with the City of Columbia Heights City Council in the community room right here. February 8th, Tuesday at 7 p.m., we have a regular school board meeting again here in the community room. February 15th, Tuesday at 5:30 p.m., we have a school board work session here in the community room. And then Tuesday, the 15th, February 15th at 7 p.m., we have a school board subcommittee on community engagement here in the community room. February 18th and 20th, there's no school, February 18th and 21st, there's no school. February 21st, again, Monday, there's no school. And February 22nd, Tuesday at 7 o'clock, there's a regular school board meeting here in the community room. All right, correspondence. Superintendent Stenbeck, do we have any correspondence today?
Madam Chair, there's no correspondence at this time.
All right, great. We'll move on to communication to the board. At this time, any citizen or employee may briefly address the school board. The board will listen to brief remarks, ask clarifying questions, and if desired, request that the administration follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests presented at this time. No blue cards? Not seeing anyone? All right, we'll move on. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which contains the personnel report from 125-22. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, Laura, second?
Second.
Second, Brenna? Any discussion on that? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right. Approved. We'll move on to the acknowledgments and contributions, acknowledgments of contributions. And before I read it this time, I'll just ask for a motion to move this forward. Motion to approve the resolution for acknowledgments of contributions.
So moved.
Lorian, second?
Second.
Second, Laura. All right, I'll read it. Acknowledgments of contributions resolution. Whereas Minnesota Statute 123B.02 permits school boards to receive for the benefit of the district, bequest, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose and apply the same to the purpose designated. In that behalf, the board may act as a trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of the pupils thereof. Therefore, be it resolved by the School Board of Columbia Heights Public Schools, Independent School District Number 13, that the board accepts with appreciation the contributions detailed in the background in the amount of $101,951.80. Detailed background, monetary donations. Donation of $275 was made to North Park School for Innovation by Kiwanis for DCD program needs. A donation of $250 was made to Highland Elementary School by the Kiwanis for the DCD program needs. And a donation of $250 was made to Columbia Academy by the Kiwanis for DCD program needs. A donation of $175 was made to Columbia Heights High School by Kiwanis for the DCD program needs. A donation of $250 was made to Valley View Elementary by the Columbia Heights Lions Club for hats and mittens for student needs. A donation of $250 was made to Highland Elementary by the Columbia Heights Lions Club for hats and mittens for student needs. A donation of $250 was made to North Park School for Innovation by Columbia Heights Lion Club for hats and mittens for student needs. A donation of $200 was made to Columbia Academy by Clarence Brown for student needs. A donation of $100 was made to Columbia Academy by Robert Brown for student needs. A donation of $200 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Allison and Chris Hill for meals for Columbia Academy musical cast and crew. A donation of $100 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Drew and Kelly Zelke for meals for Columbia Academy musical cast and crew. A donation of $100 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Estelle Domingos for meals for the Columbia Heights Academy musical cast and crew. A donation of $114 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by the Columbia Heights Music Boosters for Pep Band Pizza. A donation of $2,000 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Boosters Club for girls and boys swim parkas. A donation of $1,443.75 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by the Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for tennis winter outdoor court times. A donation of $995 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by the Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for girls soccer winter league fees. A donation of $1,835.38 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for boys soccer winter league fees. A donation of $1,500 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by the Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for boys and girls basketball shooting shirts. Oops. This next page. And it goes. A donation of $175 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by the Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for boys and girls soccer Gatorade jugs and cart. A donation of $2,475 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by the Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for Colorado timer for the swim team. A donation of $400 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Boosters for the Gatorade for the football team. A donation of $3,500 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for homecoming fireworks. A donation of $3,949.94 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for wagon volunteers. A donation of $3,500 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for boys and girls basketball. A donation of $275 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for synchronized swimming team. A donation of $500 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for the wrestling team. A donation of $70,000 was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by the Columbia Heights Athletic Booster Club for new gym flooring. The following donations were made to the Columbia Heights High School Scholarship Fund. Barbara Gavin, $2,500. Columbia Heights Police Association, $1,000. Class of 1966, $683.76. Agnes Wolf, $50. Pam Sigurdsson, $50. And Scott and Delora Peterson for $150. Value in kind. Donations of 2 pairs of running shoes was made to the Columbia Heights Activity Department by Nancy La Jennings for student needs, estimated value $280. Donation of new sports equipment and backpacks was made to the Columbia Heights Activity Department by Jackie Anderson for student needs, estimated value $1,500. Donation of a meal was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Erica Nelson for Columbia Heights Academy Musical and Crew, estimated value $100. Donation of a meal was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Nick and Brenna Zymet for Columbia Academy Musical Cast and Crew, estimated value $100. Donation of a meal was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Tina Schaefer for Columbia Academy Musical Cast and Crew, estimated value $100. Donation of a meal was made to Columbia Heights Activities Department by Faustina Allen for Columbia Academy Musical Cast and Crew, estimated value $100. Donation of a meal was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Sarah Hamp for Columbia Academy Musical Cast and Crew, estimated value $100. Donation of a meal was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Erica Tishin Fatima and Mir Ali for Columbia Academy Musical Cast and Crew, estimated value $100. Donation of donuts was made to the Columbia Heights Activities Department by Heights Bakery for Columbia Academy Musical Cast and Crew, estimated value $75. Total fiscal year 2021-2022 monetary contributions to date, $109,386.80. Whew, thank you.
You brought your Gatorade, that was long. Way to go.
Yeah, I'll let you guys talk. Any discussion or questions on this motion?
Can I comment? Just as we've said before, thank you to our community, and I think having a 2-page resolution of donations is amazing. And I specifically families who have donated. This is a tough economic time for everybody, and the fact that they chose to donate to our students and our events is exceptional. And to the boosters and the Kiwanis and the Lions Club, where their traditional fundraising sources have been limited or changed or impacted also by restaurant closings and different things that have happened throughout the past 2 years, that they have still found the ability to make those donations, and such great donations to our kids and to our programs is amazing. So I just can't thank them enough.
I couldn't have said it better.
I was going to say, well said. Repeat, copy, paste, copy, paste.
All of the above.
Does that work?
Thank you, Lorian, for.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready for a vote? All those in favor?
Resolution.
Oh, it is a resolution. Dawn, once again, can we have you do roll call, please?
Lewis,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Severson,
Aye.
Zagner.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We'll move on to discussion items, reports, and information items, and we'll start with reports from members of the board. I thought, Brenna, got to go first sometime.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah. So I attended the work session last week, which was great. I loved working with you guys. I was able last week or a couple days ago, the drama department is doing their 1X in a competition, and I was able to go to that over the weekend. That was great. Our kids did so good, and it was really heavy. 1X are generally very emotionally deep, and so I know that our kids have worked really hard on this, and they did a fabulous job. And I've gotten to be distance learning with my kids, and just have gotten to observe how fantastic our teaching staff is just across the board, and how much they invest in our kids. And it's fun to see on Zoom, get to be in the mix of what they do every day, and I mean it's phenomenal. So we just have the best staff.
All right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's me. You guys depend on me for this meeting? Molly?
A little bit. Thank you. I had a brief phone meeting with Superintendent Stenvik last week. Also have typically, as usual, attended several boys and girls basketball games in my world here. And then attended the work session last week. And also just a lot of conversations with community members, and especially parents, as well as some staff. Really just talking about the communication and how wonderful that has been through this entire challenging last couple of months. And also really a lot of respect and gratitude for the people from the secondary schools stepping in to the elementary schools. The support has been wonderful. We're seeing it across the board, and just that everything that's being done is helping out. So thank you.
Thanks.
That's it.
All right, thanks, Molly. Laura?
I attended the leadership conference with Brenna. Brenna was also there. So that was her first conference, and it was a lot of fun to be able to talk about what was going on and stuff, and had the opportunity to see the presentation for North Park School for Innovation, which was really cool. It was really neat to see the next step and how the plan is to get down to like next to no waste in 3 years. You know, I mean, they're that close over there, so that was really cool. I also attended the work session last week, and that's my report for today.
All right, thanks, Laura. We'll move on to Lorian.
Great, thank you. I attended the work session last week with all of you. I thought that was a really challenging and necessary and productive meeting, so I look forward to continue on with our work there. Had the chair meeting prior to that meeting, the chair meeting prior to this meeting, and also had a conversation with Member Granlin and with Member Lewis, which she didn't report, but we chatted. So.
But
I was there.
now it's there.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was
concur.
there,
As for me, I've had a busy few weeks here. I was also at the work session last week, which I really enjoyed. Special thanks to Paula Forbes for being there and kind of guiding us through the process of creating an equity statement. I thought it was good work, and she set us in a good direction that we likely couldn't have accomplished on our own, and so I'm thankful for her. I did go to both chair meetings, the one prior to last week and this week. I was able to attend a basketball game, 4 minutes of a basketball game, and hoping to get to some tonight. A virtual swim meet. Superintendent Stenvik and I had a meeting with the mayor of Columbia Heights and the city manager to discuss our meeting on the 8th to set an agenda. I also met independently with Superintendent Stenvik. I was able to present at the MSBA Leadership Conference, and very excited to hear that they had hopes of being, carbon net zero in the next 3 years. So that was pretty sweet to hear, and how they're hoping to get there. And then I also last Friday had the opportunity to hear a really interesting principal survey through AMSD board member thing Friday morning. So busy week, busy couple weeks.
Can I make an amendment?
Yeah.
Quick? I said that I was at the chair meeting last week before the work session. I was not.
Oh, yeah.
So, just a slight
Autopilot,
correction
not
It was-
there.
It was autopilot, and I was not at that chair meeting.
All right. We will move on to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Tenvik. That's your name, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
So semester 2 begins on Monday, and we will be back in person. And we were, really good news, able to hire an additional teacher for our Virtual Heights online school. So there are spaces available for those who are interested. Parents can reach out to their principal for help with that. And more good news, we will be hosting another staff COVID booster clinic next week. So staff can sign up for that, and it will be here in the community room. And information has gone out already via email. As previously mentioned, Chair Severson and I met with the mayor and the city manager. I felt it was a positive and collaborative meeting in preparation for our upcoming joint school board and city meeting. I had the opportunity to meet with the AMSD superintendents, the superintendents from Northeast Metro 916, and I attended the Metro EXU Executive Council meeting. I had the opportunity to meet with Senator Kunesh virtually, who's here tonight. And importantly, this week we are celebrating Minnesota Paraprofessionals Week. So a huge thank you to all of our paraprofessionals for the important work that they do. And I had communication with Chair Severson and Member Lewis, and I thank you all for your time.
All right, great. We'll move on now to our legislative update, and I would like to welcome Senator Kunesh in person, and I believe we have Representative Sandra Feist and Representative Connie Bernardi on Zoom. Am I correct on that? All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's very exciting to have you here and hear what's going on with you all.
Well, it's lovely to be here. It's not often I'm out in the nighttime, so I feel kind of odd. It's cold out there, that's for sure. I am Senator Mary Kunish. I represent this district. The district that I represent is District 41, which includes St. Anthony Village and New Brighton, Columbia Heights and Hilltop, Fridley, and a little bit of Spring Lake Park. And I myself was a teacher for 25 years, and so education has been a real focus for me at the state legislature, and probably was the impetus that got me to run for office. And actually worked with our chair here, Natty Severson's husband, in Robbinsdale. So it's kind of fun to see her again and say hello to your husband.
Hi.
So what we are doing, probably all three of us are working hard right now, getting ready for our next session. I sit on the Education, Policy, and Finance Committee in the Senate. I also sat on both of those committees when I was in the House for 4 years. So I kind of have a good idea of how the legislature has been moving along in the last 4 or 5 years. This year, I'm not quite sure what to expect. There's just so much to think about and plan for or try to anticipate coming up in the next couple of years. We do have a surplus in our state, which, can be a real joy, but it's also, it's a strong burden to be able to spend those kind of dollars wisely. We always say, if I only had $9 billion, we could wipe out all the problems that we have, but there are so many needs in our state that I think that we will work really hard to ensure that those dollars are going to really useful purposes in our state. I will just go over a few things that were positive last year, if that's okay. I don't know if listeners or anybody that's viewing is familiar with all of the good work that we did do last year. I think we all can admit that COVID really brought a stark contrast into the varying disparities between our schools and even within our community. And so as our distance learning became a norm, the ability for our schools to pivot pretty darn well into virtual learning I thought was very good. And having been a library media specialist and recognizing the challenge of getting every student a Chromebook or an iPad or something in their hands, and then making sure that they had wireless or Wi-Fi in their home to do the work, and then knew how to connect to that and use those platforms that we all use was pretty spectacular. And I, for one, would just like to say thank you to the staff and to the administration and to the students and to the teachers and the parents that worked so hard to make sure that the students continued their education. So last year, some of the most notable items that we were able to be successful with for education is that the basic formula increase was there to bolster programs for our classrooms. And so that formula increased by 2.45% in fiscal year 22, which is roughly $161 per student, and then a 2% increase in fiscal year 23, which is $135 per student, for a total biennial increase of $462.947 million. So that new basic per pupil amount for this year is $6,728, and for 2023 will be $6,863. That sounds like a lot of money, but for many, many years, the state has not kept up with even the cost of inflation. And there were years that they borrowed against our students to balance their budget. And so we still, in a lot of ways, have not fully met our responsibility going back at least a decade. But we're going to work really hard to continue to do that. We had funding extended for fiscal year 22-23 for voluntary pre-K. There was an attempt to cut those 4,000 pre-K slots for children across the state, but we are fortunate that that didn't happen, and the funding will continue to fund those extra spots just for the next couple of years. And so we are hoping that some of this surplus that we have in our state will go towards continuing, and I think we're going to especially need that as we try to, as they say, build back better, especially within our education, recognizing that there are students that might be, a typical grade level of first, second, third, or, maybe even fourth grade that have never really had a full year in a classroom. And that's going to take a lot of work. There was some attention to the special education cross-subsidy. School districts are struggling to cover those increasing costs mandated by special education services. And we really, really, really did want to do a larger investment in that, but we were able to get that subsidy funding increased by $10.45 million. And that's just a one-time for fiscal years 22 and 23. We're able to put more funding towards English language learners and that cross-subsidy that was increased. One area that I have worked since being elected into this district is around increasing teachers of color and Indigenous in our schools so that our kids are seeing folks that look like them, speak their language, have had a lot of the same life experiences. And so we did continue to add bits and pieces of that. It's a very comprehensive bill. We haven't passed the whole bill, but we are hoping to perhaps again this year. But we were able to add extra dollars into that, more money into some really unique requests. The American Indian Teacher Prep Grant, we added $280,000 to that. There's a program called Black Men Teach, and we funded $750,000 towards that. Enticing other teachers to come to teach in Minnesota. We all know there is a dreadful, horrible shortage of teachers available right now, let alone substitute teachers. And we did put $400,000 for fiscal year 22 and 23 into that fund to entice other teachers to come to Minnesota with a hiring bonus. We expanded concurrent enrollment, which is kind of introduction to teaching at the high school level, which I think is just fabulous. $250,000 towards that. Grow Your Own, $10 million, so that's some incentive for school districts to look at who they have in their schools or in their communities and how we can help fund the move from, either volunteering or, let's say, an educational assistant or something within the school or the community to finally get their teacher license and join their schools that way. We also funded Teachers of Color Mentoring and Retention Incentive Grants, and then another funding for teacher recruitment, and that's a marketing campaign. So somewhere down the road, we're going to start talking about how great it is to teach and live in Minnesota, and please join us. There were a number of other things that we funded, the Santa Foundation, Minnesota Youth Council, Minnesota Civics Education Coalition, Math Corps, Girls in Action, let's see, suicide prevention, teaching, training grants, all sorts of really good things that we were able to agree on, recognizing that Minnesota is one of the only 2 states that have a split government, which means they have, neither party has the majority either as the governor or in the House or in the Senate. And so that really does cause a little bit of friction and makes it a little more difficult to pass the legislation that we wanted to. One of the policy pieces that we pass is an anti-lunch shaming. And, I think there is discussion and legislation around providing meals for students at no cost for every student who wants it, which will eliminate a lot of those sort of, really tough situations that both students and parents find themselves in. We want to make sure that we are addressing the mental health education that is going to help with preventing suicide or self-harm with our students. And I know and you know that our mental health situation, both with students and families, teachers and communities, is really challenging right now. And that will definitely be some of the things that we will be really looking at closely at the state legislature. I'm very sure of that. And so I think that's about all I have to share with you. This is a non-budget year, and so this is the supplement budget year, so we don't expect a huge influx of additional dollars that won't come from that surplus. So if we didn't have the surplus, we probably wouldn't be getting a lot of extra. But with COVID-19 remaining a really serious factor in the students' learning opportunities, I'm sure we will talk about teacher shortage, declining enrollment, and the mitigation strategies and available resources that we can get our hands on in order to pass on to our school districts, so that hopefully, fingers crossed, next session we will be able to go back to an in-person kind of school year, and hopefully we will start to rebuild the school districts with the understanding that we all need to work on this together. And so I think I've kind of exhausted my notes that I brought along. But if you have any questions for me or comments, I'm happy to speak a little bit more.
Should we hear from the other 2, or are you presenting on behalf of
No.
everyone?
They both have their wealth of information as well.
This is the first time I've been board chair through this. Is the practice to meet one? So hear Senator Kunish and then ask her questions and then move on? Or do we hear, yes, Laura says yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, questions for Senator Kunish? Laura?
Okay, seeing as you're on the policy, the education policy, I was wondering whether or not there's any talk, consideration, or anything moving forward about seat time and the qualifications for that. Seeing as we've really changed the model with the distance learning and kind of, asynchronous learning, and we're here and, we're there and we're doing all that. Is there any thought about, as far as our funding is concerned, it's based upon how often a child is actually sitting in the seat in the classroom, and whether or not there might be some sort of revision or thought about moving out of that antique model?
Yeah, I have not heard anybody speak to that, as we're getting ready for session. I think it would be really difficult to enforce that in the next school year, especially when kids are sort of used to being able to move around. And so I don't know that there is anything that's going to enforce that. But if there is, I will definitely let you know. And maybe if there's going to even be a hearing on that, if you would like to come speak to that. And maybe that's just one thing I should also say to the school board as well as to the community members. If you have the opportunity to tune in and listen to any of the the hearings, both in the House and the Senate around our education policy and finance. It's always online. You can watch it in real time, but if you feel like you have something to say to those, either to what we're discussing during the committee, or if you can look ahead at the agenda, please let me know if you'd like to come in and testify or join on Zoom and speak to the issues that are really important to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lorian.
I appreciate you coming in, and I think you brought a lot of really great information, and I really also want to acknowledge your acknowledgement of the funding that hasn't kept up with inflation and the challenges that all districts have. And I really offer this to you as well as to Representatives Bernardi and Feist, who will be joining us here in a minute. But you know, today is a day to be at this meeting where later on we discuss our resolution for discontinuance of programs and positions, as the board directs our administration to make decisions regarding staffing and regarding programs, because our district of 3,200 students has a $5 million shortfall in the special education cross-subsidy and almost $1 million shortfall in our English language learner requirements. It's a lot for our district. And it has a huge impact on the resources available and the education that we provide to all students. And our mission is for all belong, all succeed, for each and every learner. We've got obligations as a district, and we've had some challenges. And as all districts in Minnesota, and quite honestly everywhere, have struggled. And this is a big deal for us. And I do appreciate any increase, any funding that we get is appreciated. And don't get me wrong on that. I just hope that there's a continued understanding that it's still not enough.
I think I hear you loud and clear, and definitely that, as I said, was one of the reasons I decided to run, hoping that I could make a difference in those kind of fundings, especially when there are unfunded mandates that are continually put on our school and our school districts. And it really breaks my heart to know that because of that kind of funding, not only do you have to cut down on staff, on individuals, professionals, but also the fact that those resources will not be getting to the students that need it most. And so I will take that back to our committee and make it loud and clear that I know this is not unique just to Columbia Heights, so we can imagine multiplying that by, the number of schools in this state. And maybe this is the year we can really make a big difference so that it isn't such a burden to our schools.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Lorian, because I wrote down unfunded mandates, sped cross subsidy. Just to put it into perspective, I think we're almost 5 million in our special education, not quite 5 this year. But our budget is just over 50 million, so we're talking 10% of our budget is eaten up by special education cross subsidy. And we have a high percentage of kids getting services in special education, so I think in addition to this being a stressor for every school district, I think we have unique stressors here, that we're talking 10% of our budget is special education cross subsidy. So that's pretty hard. That's hard news.
It is.
So.
It's really hard news.
Yeah. And I also just want to say thank you. It's really exciting to see incentives for getting teachers, especially teachers of colors, into the job market. That's pretty outstanding. It's something we just talked about last week in our equity meeting, or in our work session where we discussed equity. And so it's really neat to hear just the teacher recruiting strategies in general, and then also the emphasis on finding and retaining teachers of color. So thank you.
That's a big project.
Yeah.
But we'll keep working on it.
Yeah. Brenna.
I was wondering about, in the time that kids have been on distance learning, there's been some regression. We don't like to talk about learning loss, but there's definitely been time that kids weren't in the classroom. And I'm wondering, as far as policy and standards go at the state level, if there's going to be any adjustment to that idea of like teaching at grade level, and if there's anything that would happen as far as standardized testing and some of the ways that we measure for kids that, I mean, like my son lost half of kindergarten and came back to second grade. And so, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you miss out on in that space. And I'm just wondering what at the state level you guys are doing about those standards, I guess.
Well, I don't know that there will be a formal adjustment to the standards and even to, let's say, the MCA tests at this point, because I have a feeling that those that will make the ultimate decisions will want the teaching to continue in a rigorous manner.
Right.
And uphold our standards, the high standards that Minnesota has had. I am hoping that there will be some discussion and consideration of not penalizing schools for perhaps not meeting certain standards that have been set, and that students will not be held, in some kind of repercussion for not reaching a grade level standard at whatever level that is. I think what we'll have to do is allow that testing to happen, and then schools will have to, and administrators and superintendents will have to look at those individual scores in a way that says, here's where that student is, here's where we can meet them, and here's where we can help them build growth. And I think there will be a lot more differentiation that's going to have to happen. And if we can somehow use some of that surplus dollars to address those issues and get the resource. I mean, I know what I would do if I was in charge, but it's just convincing everybody else that that's the way to go. But I will take that message as well back to our committee.
Thank you.
Just real quick,
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for your advocacy.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't think any of us underestimate how fortunate we are to have someone like you representing our community with your focus on education. And just if you're keeping track of tallies, the advocacy for special ed cross-subsidy and teachers of color is certainly what we are passionate about. And so sign us all up for that, I think, is a fair statement. So
Well,
thank
I
you.
feel really fortunate to represent these communities and be able to speak out on these issues. So I myself am just as thankful. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for joining us.
bet.
I'll introduce to you Representative Connie Bernardi.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here tonight, and thank you so much for the invitation. Senator Kunish focused on what we did last year, and we accomplished quite a bit last year. And I will focus on what we're looking towards this upcoming session, and I really want to get your input on things that can help you in this upcoming session. So what I want to do is, first of all, let you know that I'm state representative, and I represent 5 school districts, including Columbia Heights. Columbia Heights, I represented the school district for 15 years, and that's been quite the honor. My childhood home was in Columbia Heights on 4th Street, right? And this is a trivia question. Does anyone guess on the northern part of Columbia Heights what school it was by that no longer exists there? Anybody know? They could guess? Nelson Elementary School, if anybody has ever heard that. So go way back with Columbia Heights. And I want to thank you all for your leadership, and to the district staff and teachers who are have put so much into helping students learn during this pandemic. And I'm very grateful for all the workers in the school district who have done that. And then I also want to thank you, Columbia Heights, it's an honor to have earned an award from Columbia Heights Schools. And I display it proudly, my golden apple, on my bookshelf at the Capitol. So I want to thank you for that. And also for coming down with me and testifying on different bills. And Columbia Heights School District was instrumental in helping to institutionalize all-day kindergarten voluntary all-day kindergarten, which is the bill I had authored, and I want to thank the support from Columbia Heights Schools for making that happen. What I learned, it's essential for a student's success, and so thank you again. And then I thought, as I'm looking forward, what I'm share with you is I serve on an education committee, the higher education committee, and today we had a press conference with four of our education committee chairs. And so I thought I would share with you what about the 10 things that we're looking forward from our youngest learners to higher education. And I'll go through those with you. Every child deserves a great start in life. Our house, which is DFLers, are in putting together a plan, and we are prioritizing. This is what we're prioritizing: access to affordable childcare and early learning opportunities that set young Minnesotans up for long-term success. We want all children to have high quality care and resources they need to thrive, no exceptions. 2, investing in children during the first years of lives benefits us all. House DFLers are focused on helping our youngest Minnesotans thrive now and for many years to come. The third thing we're working on is childcare providers deserve living wages, no exceptions. It's unacceptable that these dedicated workers are struggling to make ends meet as they continue to provide critical services to families across the state. And the fourth area we talked about today are far too many Minnesotan families struggle to find affordable care in their community, paying as much as 40% of their income on childcare, forcing them into impossible choice between rent, food, and care that allows them to work in the first place. Democrats want to lower the cost of childcare so parents can work, employers can hire, and communities can thrive. In the K-12 area, we're committed to delivering ongoing support to Minnesota students, families, and schools as the COVID-19 pandemic continues. This fifth area I'm going to focus on here is Minnesota continues to have some of the worst racial disparities in student outcomes in education. The opportunity gap and the disparities for Black, Indigenous, students of color, and students with a disability have further widened with the pandemic. House DFLers are working to improve the access and quality of teaching and learning that enable children and youth to build the skills they need to thrive. Sixth thing is our students with special learning needs are among the most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic disruption. Our House DFLers are working together to exploring strategies to reduce special education and English language learning funding shortfalls so our kids and schools have the resources they need to be successful and inclusive. The seventh area is now more than ever, our students need and deserve strong mental health support to cope with the pandemic impact on social and emotional well-being. In the area of higher education, all Minnesotans deserve access to a quality education, which is why we are proposing and are committed to ensuring college costs are affordable for working families. For the eighth area out of the 10 I'm going to share with you, for years we have been hearing from Minnesotans that the cost of college is a barrier for far too many of our students and families. With historic surpluses, we have an opportunity to make a long-lasting impact across the state for Minnesota graduates struggling with debt and for prospective Minnesota students who are working hard to gain a career or go through a training program. The ninth area, every Minnesotan deserves the opportunity to earn a college degree regardless of background. Investments in the state grant program and a tuition freeze are key strategies we'll explore to expand access and break down barriers for post-secondary enrollment options. And we're looking at possibly state grants or tuition-free grants to Minnesota students attending two-year public colleges. And finally, we are going to work on ways to reduce the burden of student debt by looking at ways to help Minnesotans refinance and repay their student loans. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight, learning from you what will matter to the Columbia Heights School District is why we are at the Capitol and what we are committed to working with you to help in whatever way we can. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing with us what's happening with the representatives down at the state. Do we have any questions? It's tough to be second, though, because we got it all out, right? But Laura, there you go.
Yeah, thank you for
You want to turn, yeah,
coming.
make sure she can
Can you
in
hear
your
me?
mic.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming this evening, and you are on the Higher Education Committee?
Yes, I'm the chair of the higher education committee.
Oh, that's even better. Years ago, there used to be a program that directly recruited teachers or students to become teachers of color. It was a program that was specifically about recruiting those students to come to Minnesota from all over the country. A number of years back, that program had been discontinued, and it was done through the University of Minnesota. I had heard about it, and apparently it had been quite successful with helping with the relocation, the support, housing, as well as being able to get their teaching certificates in Minnesota. Could there be a possibility of being able to revive a program like that for recruitment? I mean, because we're doing what we can here, but I think that there's so much talent out there. Welcome to Minnesota, and we're gonna help you on your way, and we need to have teachers that look like our students. It's so incredibly important.
Well, thank you for bringing that up to me. I am not familiar with that program, but what I will do is I'll go back and I will research it and find out more about it and see if we can propose legislation this year, because those are the kind of bold initiatives that we need to be looking at so that we can close the achievement gap and have our workforce in our schools reflect our students in our community. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yeah, we kind of got it out of our system. For those of you, if you hear things kind of clacking around and doing crazy things in here, it's winter 1, people in this room 0. Apparently, there's no heat right now, so we're all, if we look like we're a little bit frigid, it's cold in here. So winter is winning right now here. So anyway, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, and I hope you're nice and cozy wherever you are.
Yes, thank you.
We appreciate all your work and your commitment to our schools. Yes, thank you. And there we go. You got the message, Representative Feist.
Oh, thank you. So I'm sort of toasty where I am. I have a space heater, but I have to turn it off while I'm speaking because it's very loud. So you've heard from Senator Kunesh about all of our achievements last session, and Representative Bernardi about kind of big picture plans for the next session. And so my approach was a sticky note full of very specific things that I'm going to be working on. So I'll go down to like the granular. So one of the reasons, just like my colleagues, one of the reasons that I ran for office was to address the opportunity gap. I'm the mom of a 4th grader and a 6th grader in the Mounds View Public Schools, and I just know how critically important our schools are to my children and to all children. And I just believe so passionately that every single child in Minnesota deserves that same opportunity to an amazing education. This coming session, basically all of my bills are youth focused. And so I would categorize them as like bipartisan. I hope they will pass. My pie in the sky bills that we should do because they're the right thing to do. And then some youth kind of school adjacent bills that I'll mention that will affect students. I introduced this year a bill to address period poverty in schools. And it will require that schools with grades 4 through 12 provide menstrual products in the student bathrooms, and it is funded. Last year, a version of it was introduced that was not funded. This year, we decided we needed to fund that mandate because it's so important and we should pay for it. And a Columbia Heights student, Amina Jama, actually spoke at our press event yesterday, and she was very powerful. And so I was very excited to have her voice. And that bill is really like student-led. A high school student brought it to me as an issue, and they've really led the way. So I'm super excited about that bill. I would put it in between pie in the sky and bipartisan. I feel like it's not like totally impossible that we don't come together and realize that this is just a basic need that our students need. And it's also a really wise investment because kids miss school due to period poverty. And that just costs the state more money in the long run as we try to play catch up and support those students to get them back on track. So why not just keep them in class where they belong? So that is one bill that I just introduced and I'm very excited about. A bill that I introduced last year and has a Republican author in the Senate, it would require universal Fafsa. This would require students to complete the Fafsa form for high school graduation. It's been passed in 7 states, and they include California, very blue, and Alabama, very red. So it's a very nonpartisan type of bill. And it really does have really significant equity implications because we know that completion of the FAFSA form is very closely correlated to whether a kid will go to college. And what they've seen in states that have passed this legislation is that the number of kids with free and reduced lunch who do go on to attend college significantly increases. And I imagine you have a lot of practical questions because a lot of people have had a lot of practical questions. So I'm gathering some more information about just how this has looked, where it's been implemented successfully. But do know that there is a very broad carve out if a student can't complete the form for any reason, such as not having access to the information that they need because their parents won't provide it. That is fine. So we aren't going to hold any kids back from graduating if they can't complete the form. But states that have passed this type of legislation have seen a really big boost in that federal funding and kids attending college as a result. Another bill that I'm working on that I've talked with Superintendent Stenvik about is the Student Data Privacy Act. This is another bipartisan bill, and it addresses a number of issues around student data privacy. But the big picture is just that it brings our student data privacy laws from the 70s when they were written, when data was like pieces of paper in a filing cabinet, into the 21st century, where student data is in the cloud, it's on school issued devices. And we just need to have more guardrails around how we're protecting that data and how we're using that data. And so that bill, I'm really excited about. It's addressing a lot of issues that have kind of become more and more kind of in the public consciousness because of COVID and because of the rise in remote learning. And Minnesota is poised to really lead the way in protecting student data and bringing our student data laws into the modern world. I have a little bill that I introduced last year that would provide some funding to McPhail to supplement music programs in public schools. So I'm crossing my fingers. It's really not that much money in the big picture of things. So hopefully we can get that passed. On the pie in the sky category of bills, I am going to introduce a bill that will tie our education budget to inflation. So my understanding is that is as anathema to Republicans as public funding for private schools is to DFLers. So not expecting that to pass this year, but I think it's a really important principle that we should stand by, that we can't be funding our schools less every year due to inflation. And so I will introduce that bill this session. In the middle of pie in the sky, I would put this, actually, I think this bill can pass. I am going to try to form either a task force or a working group to look at how we calculate compensatory revenue, because tying it to the free and reduced lunch forms is really a bad measure of which students need that money. And more importantly, it really is in conflict with our goal of feeding students. And with the governor's budget wanting to provide free lunch to all students, there's going to be a lot of difficulty collecting those free and reduced lunch forms. And so we just need to take some time. We need to get bipartisan buy-in, and we need to really think about better ways to target those compensatory dollars to the students that need them. And that could pass. Like, obviously we can't change compensatory revenue in 1 year, but I think we could get like a working group together. That seems like something that could be done. And then on the adjacent to education category, I did introduce a bill that will protect neglected, abandoned, or abused immigrant children. This actually doesn't really, you might care about it personally, but not as a school board, so I won't get into too much detail. But it will help students that or children who are vulnerable in Minnesota. I am also working on a very ambitious youth restorative justice bill that will, I hope it will get heard this year. I do not expect it to pass because it's a pretty big concept. But the goal is to really look at the way that we treat children who are who act out and need extra support. You know, when a 12-year-old is involved in an armed carjacking, it's not because they are a bad kid, it's because they need help. And so we need to address these children's behavior in a way that will support them and get them back on the right track, rather than through punitive, ineffective and expensive methods. So we know that kids' involvement in the juvenile justice system really interrupts their education. I talked with an expert at the Department of Education about this specifically. And so as we're working on that bill, we're also working with teachers and members of the community to make sure that we're addressing interruptions to kids' education that result from involvement in the juvenile justice system. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that I'm on a bipartisan bicameral literacy working group because literacy is an issue that matters on both sides of the aisle. And so that has been really gratifying. We're looking at how the new rules and funding around screening for dyslexia. And literacy rates are also tied very closely to involvement in the juvenile justice system. And so it's an issue that matters deeply to me. And excitingly, it is also a very bipartisan issue. So I will leave it at that. Those are the things I'm up to, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you also for sharing what's going on from your end. Any questions? It is tough to be third now. We've really exhausted all of our comments and questions. Laura?
Okay, thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I guess my question is how do you stay so upbeat whenever it's an uphill battle? I'm really excited to see your energy. And some of those bills and things that you're looking at, are really incredibly important for the welfare of our students. Because we practice trauma-informed practices here, and that is important. Is being able to look at the whole child. So those issues that may not be directly school related are really going to be very impactful. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And I do feel like being on the inside, I feel less angry than I did on the outside of politics. And it is very rewarding to see where there is bipartisan agreement. We may be coming at issues from different angles, but like when I see how passionately both sides of the aisle care about literacy and dyslexia, and restorative justice is actually an area where there's a lot of bipartisan interest in legislating. And the Fafsa bill is also bipartisan. So I feel like I get enough energy from those areas of commonalities and progress that it fuels the sort of pie in the sky. Like we also need to tie our education budget to inflation. That might take a bit longer. So.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah.
I have no idea why we didn't do. The only thing I can think of is that it's just a bargaining chip every single year. But they're holding all the students a hostage to it. I mean, it should have been tied to inflation all along. We'd be looking at a much smaller shortfall.
All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us and for being advocates for public schools. We're very excited to hear what's happened, what's happening, and what hopefully will happen. Thank you for your hard work, and thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure.
Can I make
Yep,
one more comment?
yep.
I just want to say how grateful that I know I personally feel that we have 3 people that are into the education in this district. I don't think that there's other districts that are this fortunate, especially being as passionate and knowledgeable about the areas that they're working on. So I am super grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you again. Oh,
You bet.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you and back at you.
Yep,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.
We will move on to the science curriculum. I'm going to welcome Director of Teaching and Learning, Tara Tuckrell and Disa Fabik. And I got this, Carrie, I got this. Trinanen. I wrote it down and then I couldn't figure out where I wrote it down. I practiced.
Is it Trinjan?
Trinanen.
go.
There it is.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Severson, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. I'm here with our Research and Assessment Coordinator, Disa, as well as our Teaching and Learning Coordinator for Secondary, Carrie. And we're here to share about the updates to the new science standards and how it affects our current pathway in middle school, and a request to adopt a new curriculum to support the change in standards. So our mission in Columbia Heights Public Schools is creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner. All belong and all succeed. And as we really embrace these new standards, we're focused in on excellence and innovation. We're here tonight with an informal presentation, and then Carrie and I will return on February 8th to ask the board to approve the adoption of a new science curriculum for Columbia Academy. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Disa.
Yes, good evening, Chair Severson, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. We wanted to show you that Minnesota is adopting new science standards, and we've gotten to review them. And you can see our implementation year is going to be 2023-2024. So really what the new standards for Minnesota science are, they're really focused around thinking and scientific processing and not necessarily a content change, except at our middle school level. So Columbia Academy, our 6th and our 8th grade curriculum are actually changing. So this is why we really did a deep dive into specifically 6th grade to see what we could support with earth science, because they were teaching physical science. So we wanted to map out for everybody what that would look like and what the student cohorts would be receiving. So we would start with our implementation of earth science, as you can see in 2022-23. And 7th grade will continue to be life science. So the content is not different, just how the teachers are educating and facilitating learning looks a little bit different. And then we're going to see some new shifts in 8th grade, the 2023-2024 school year, with physical science. And then I will pass that over to Carrie for curriculum review and development.
Good evening, Chair Severson, members of the board, and Superintendent Stenvick. As a part of our cycle, we worked with all teams in our district, including teachers, leadership teams, and administration. Our world's best workforce has been part of the process throughout this school year and last school year. And so we are bringing tonight our recommendation to the school board. This shows a much more time-detailed version of our work, where the cycle has included a deep review of standards, investigating multiple curricula, and gathering, receiving student voice and input. As we look at our professional development work, you can see our professional development work really began in the 2020 and 2021 school year with multiple science-specific professional development sessions. It continued with our science pathway and professional learning communities. And then next year, we're really looking at the content and curriculum-specific training and supports. And here you can see our expected expenditures. And within this, there are some one-time upfront costs. However, within our 6-year licensure, we will always have access to our literacy components, our assessments, and labs and activities. And you can see there with the student lab and materials, most of the items we're receiving are durable and can be used year to year.
Can I add, Carrie, that we knew this expense was coming in, so we have budgeted for this, and it does fall within the budget that we have allotted.
So with that, it is our recommendation that we adopt the Amplify Science curriculum to be implemented in grade 6 science classrooms beginning the fall of 2022.
All right, questions? Brenna?
So for the students that are already in sixth grade and going forward, is the change gonna impact them like in high school and testing, and is there a way that you're gonna catch them up on the earth science that they've missed? Or is it just gonna start with the 22 sixth graders?
Lisa, I'm gonna let you answer that.
Yes, that's a great question. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't missing any students. And so you'll see in one of our slides that our students that are currently sixth graders, when they're in eighth grade, they're going to have a combination of physical science and earth science because they've already really had the physical science content. But now we're going to support that with earth science content and ways of thinking. So that will be a unique year for our cohort, and our teachers are getting some really great training and some ideas already. And especially that our eighth grade team right now has taught earth science. So that is not new content for them, but all cohorts should get the full experience and all of the curriculum that's required by MDE in their middle school years.
And like students that are already in high school and stuff are gonna be grandfathered past needing to meet these standards, is that correct?
Accurate, yes.
Okay.
Other questions? All right. Well, thank you for telling us all about the new science curriculum. We'll see you back at our next meeting.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the policy first reading. And I'll be presenting. So our policy meeting met, our policy team met, was that already at the beginning of the month? 2 weeks ago? And we discussed the following. I'll just read through the following policies. 102 are equal education opportunity, 406 public and private personnel data, 413 harassment and violence, 425 staff development, 504 corporal punishment, 515 protection and privacy of public records, 424 technology and internet acceptable use and safety policies. And these policies will appear on a future agenda for approval. But this is that time where we inform you all that's coming from the policy committee and the public. If you're interested in it, our policy items are on the website and available for you to look at and consult. So if you would like to take a look. MSBA did recommend some bigger changes in some of these, which we reviewed as a policy team with the directors. And so might be worth taking a look if something stands out to you. Any questions? Laura, did I miss anything? Laura's us on our subcommittee for policy. Did I surmise that well?
No.
All right. Okay. That is your information on those. We'll move on to action items. Welcome Director Hennekins to talk about our HVAC bids.
Thank you, Chair Severson, members of the board, and Superintendent Hvac. I presented to the board previously on this. We had received sealed bids for the Columbia Heights High School and Columbia Academy HVAC replacement project, which includes the gym and the cafeteria areas, so those main large areas where lots of students congregate. We opened the bids on December 16th at 2 p.m. And we presented it on January 11th as an info item. And as presented previously, we are seeking approval to move forward with Thielen Heating with the base bid of $1,218,000 and the alternative bid of $418,000. And again, this project is funded through federal COVID relief dollars to address indoor air quality needs.
All right, thank you. So the motion is to award the bid to Thielen Heating for the high school and Columbia Academy HVAC replacement project. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Lorian. Second? Molly? All right, discussion.
I think Director Hennekins answered all my questions.
We did hear about it at the last meeting. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the pay equity report with Director Bennett.
Chair Severson, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. Presented at the last meeting was information on the pay equity report. This report has to be submitted every 3 years to the state of Minnesota. And it's required to submit proof that the institution is not discriminating against females in our compensation practices. As discussed, there's 4 areas they look at, or 4 tests: completeness and accuracy test, statistical analysis test, salary range test, and exceptional service pay test. And based on the information we're going to submit to the state with board approval, it looks like we are in compliance with all 4 of the tests. So once approved, we'll get it submitted and then be done for another 3 years. So I'm here tonight seeking approval.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the pay equity report.
So moved.
Thanks, Molly. Second?
Second.
Brenna, thank you. Any discussion on this one? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Director Bennett. Oh, she's back. As is Director Hennekins, as well as Superintendent Stenvick, to talk about the discontinuance of programs and positions resolution.
Chair Severson, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. Again, at the last school board meeting, we did present the resolution for the discontinuance of programs and positions. It is an annual resolution that we bring forward to the board, where the board directs administration, the superintendent, to look at efficiencies. So tonight we are here seeking approval of this resolution.
All right, thank you. I'm going to read the resolution and then I'll ask for a motion to move it forward. The Board of Education's resolution directing the administration to make recommendation for reductions in programs and positions and the reasons thereof. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has brought unforeseen expenditures not covered by the CARES Funding Act, and whereas the special education cross subsidy required the school district's general fund to cover almost $5 million for this obligation last year, and whereas the English learners cross subsidy continues to be yearly approximate $0.8 million in cost, requiring the school district's general fund to cover this obligation, and whereas the voter-approved operating levy has remained the same per pupil since its passage in 2005, which has not kept up with inflation, and whereas the school district budget is based on declining projected enrollment, and whereas the financial condition of the school district is dependent on federal, state, and local revenues and these have not been sufficient to cover the total cost of ownership for the school district expenses, and whereas transportation costs are projected to increase, and whereas the school district has an obligation to balance the budget on an annual basis, and whereas reduction in expenditures and school finances may include discontinuance of positions and discontinuance or curtailment of programs if necessary, and whereas a determination must be made as to which faculty and staff contracts and programs may be terminated and not renewed, and which licensed staff may be placed on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits in effecting discontinuance of positions and programs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District Number 13, Columbia Heights, hereby directs the Superintendent of Schools and Administration to consider the discontinuance of positions and/or programs to effectuate economies in the school district and reduce expenditures. Make recommendation to the school board for the discontinuance of positions, curtailment of positions, discontinuance of programs, curtailment of programs in order to balance the school district budget. All right, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Laura, second?
Second.
Lorian? All right, discussion. Lorian?
Kind of as I said to our legislative guests, I have a dream of funded mandates and funding that is tied to inflation and funded schools. I think that our district has continued to do a good job with what we have to providing an exceptional education to our students. But we've got a budget to balance. At the end of the day, that's what we have to do as well. And so this is an annual thing, and we talk about this every year when we do this, that we provide the administration the direction to take a look and to see where we can be more efficient in order to make sure that we can meet our budget expectations.
Laura, I saw your hand.
Oh, no.
Oh, she got it.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, this
Yeah.
is something that we support the superintendent to be able to make these decisions, and these are always going to be tough. It's something that has to be done to look at efficiencies, and there is a great deal of cost-benefit analysis that is also completed. This is a very, very long and difficult process, and I'm going to thank everybody ahead of time for all the work that's going to go into this, because this is an enormous undertaking. So I'm very appreciative of the hard work on just making sure that we are the right size.
Yeah, it becomes no less tough, even though it happens every year. So thank you for your hard work. All right, this is a resolution, so Don, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Lewis,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Severson,
Aye.
Seaman.
Aye.
All right, resolution passes. Thank you. We'll move on to principal contract. So again, invite Director Bennett and Director Hennekins.
Chair Severson, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. Again, at the last meeting, we presented information about the negotiations with the principals for a 2-year contract. And since that time, the principals have ratified and approved their contract. It's been signed off on. So tonight, we're here seeking approval of a contract with the principals for this school year for 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2023.
All right, so the motion is to approve the, looking for a motion to approve the master agreement between Independent School District 13, Columbia Heights, and district's principals covering school years presented, as presented.
So moved.
Molly, second.
Second.
Brenna, discussion on this one. Once again, a thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, we reviewed this in quite a bit of detail, you know, so this is not the first time we're looking at
Yeah.
it. So just wanted to let everybody know.
Yep. Brenna, did you, or did,
Just good job negotiating. Glad you guys got that done. Our principals are awesome. Yeah.
all right. Thank you. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Sorry, typing. All right, we'll move on to board topics, and I have a couple. Just a reminder, you might have put it in your calendar for the city meeting, the meeting with the city to begin at 6. Note that we bumped it back to 5:30 after having met with the city, just realizing we probably had more to present than on each side than we could possibly cover. We will end it in time for us to have a short break before our 7 o'clock meeting, but not a long break. Not a huge break there. And then also a reminder to send your promise statements to Superintendent Stenvick by Friday. Is that the deadline we gave? Do we want them to be in the board packet on Friday? No, but just
That's why, yeah, that
Okay,
was,
so
that was the plan. So if
early enough to get them in the board packet by Friday, if possible. Friday morning.
Friday at like 10 a.m.
I'm looking at you, Severson. That's
8
what she's
a.m.
thinking. Yeah.
It was in the packet
Sorry.
last week. There was a
Yep.
specific time.
Okay, whatever that is. Got it.
Great.
Duly noted.
Other board topics? Oh, I do. That's right. Thank you. I know Superintendent Stenvick mentioned it earlier, but it is Paraprofessional Appreciation Week, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of the board. Is that fair? When I say thank you to all our paraprofessionals, EAs who care for our kids day in and day out and have gone above and beyond, especially, I mean, in this crazy, just like all our staff have gone above and beyond in this crazy last almost 2 years. Wow, that's a little defeating to say, but we're thankful for all that you do and all the time you give to our kids here in Columbia Heights. Yeah.
And the connection they make with our students, right? That just, the paraprofessional staff, I think, has done a really great job of making personal connections with our students, and I kudos to them for all the hard work that they do for that.
Yeah, and I think I'd just highlight, some of the work that they do. I mean, they are really the teachers assistants. They are teachers. They adapt, they're flexible, they're creative, on top of nurturing and caring. And so just a huge thank you, very near and dear to my heart as well. But yes, much appreciated for everything that they do.
Any other board topics?
Yeah, I mean, it's not cliche to say that like the schools would not function without them. I mean, they're just so important, and just thank you for everything that you guys do. You are clutch, 100%. So.
All right. Other board topics? All right, hearing none, we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:25 PM.